Hi, my name's Alyssa and I'm going to show you how to sew the Lydia dress. If you're assembling the pattern at home, you'll need a printer or access to a printer and tape and paper scissors to assemble the pattern. And then for sewing, you'll need fabric scissors, something to mark the fabric with. This is a pen by Pilot called Friction that comes off when you iron it. You can also use chalk, a seam ripper, a loop turner. I use this sometimes depending on the situation and how I'm feeling because sometimes this doesn't work, in which case I use my other loop turner that I made out of wire, and I like using this for things that are longer. And I turned over the end here into a loop so that it doesn't snag through the tunnel, and then I attached a safety pin to the other end to attach to the fabric. And I also use this as a bodkin or an elastic threader, which you also need. Measuring tape. You don't need this, but this is a sewing and knitting gauge, and I like to use this for folding under seam allowances and facings to make sure that it's even. Pins, bra adjusters. The straps on this dress are 5/16 of an inch wide, or a little bit over 1/4 of an inch, and this is a tiny bit under 1/2 an inch. So a tiny bit big, but I bought a bag of these and I just want to use them. I don't want to buy new ones. But they end up being fine. They end up looking like that. They're like a tiny bit big, but it's fine. And if you don't have adjusters or don't want to buy them, you can also attach the strap to the back of the dress first and then pin it to where you want at the front. You could also cut 2 of these straps for one side and make it a little bit longer, and then attach one to the front, one to the back, and then have it tie at the top if you want. And then you'll need a 1/4 inch elastic, and depending on your size, you'll need between 13 to 27 inches. And the exact measurements are in the instructions for each size. And then fabric. You'll need about 2 to 2.5 yards of fabric, depending on your size, and also if your fabric is printed and what direction the print is going in. For the extra small through extra large, you'll need 2 yards of fabric if you want to lay the 2 dress pieces out perpendicular to the selvage. So if this was a selvage, you would lay the pattern pieces like that. But you would need 2.5 yards if you want to lay them parallel to the selvage, which is what I did for this because it's a one-way print and you can only cut it in this one direction. You can cut it in other directions, but it would look weird. And then for the 1X to the 5X, you need 2.5 yards of fabric. And that is based on a width of 44 inches. And I'm using 100% cotton quilting fabric that I got at a salvage store. And if you can find fabric at a salvage or a second-hand store, that's great. If not, using a natural fiber fabric is also a good option. And this pattern doesn't require a serger because all of the seams are French seamed, so you just need a regular sewing machine and an iron and thread. I'm going to start with the straps, and I have one of the strap pieces here, and I'm going to turn it so the wrong side is facing up. The wrong side is the inside of the fabric and the right side is the outside. And I'm going to turn in 1.5 inches. And because this is a one-way print, I want the flowers to be facing in this direction at the front. And so this is going to be the back side of the strap where I'm going to turn it in 1/2 inch. And if you have an all-over print, like a print that looks the same every time you turn it in a different direction, or if you have a solid colored fabric, it doesn't matter which end you turn in. So I'm going to press that, and then I'm going to turn this and fold it so the right sides are touching, and press. And now I'm going to sew a 1/2 inch away from the raw edge all the way down. Press and then trim off the seam allowance so there's about 1/4 inch left. Now turn the strap inside out with a loop turner. Now press the strap. I'm going to take the strap pattern piece and lay it so the little back strap part is over here and the raw edge is on this side. And I'm going to cut this off. And this will be the part that goes here. So I'm going to take one of these rings and put it through, and then tack this together. So I'll just tack right there with the sewing machine. I'm tacking it at the very top of the strap. It's just to hold this together to make it easier to sew later on. I finished the other strap, and I'm going to put these aside and take the front dress piece and sew the hem. If you want to wait until the very end to sew the hem, you can do that, but I like to get it out of the way. So what I'm going to do is fold up the hem 1/4 inch and then 1/4 inch again, and stitch along that edge and press. I have my back dress piece and I just sewed the hem at the bottom. I'm going to go to the top, and I have these 2 notches cut out for the strap location. And what I'm going to do is turn over the top 1/4 inch and pin it so it stays in place, and then press. Now where these 2 notches are, I'm going to put a pin like this just to mark where they are. And I'm going to turn this over again so it's folded over 3/8 inch, and then repin it and press. Now I'm going to take the two little back strap pieces and put them next to the notch so they're closer to the side seam. So I'm going to put them there, and I'm putting them so the edge of this is pretty much touching the top there. And then I'm going to pin this in place. And now I'm going to top stitch all down the edge there. And when I get to the strap part, I'm going to back stitch over it to make sure that it's secure. Press the tunnel, and now I'm going to take my elastic and thread it through the tunnel. Now I'm going to tack each end of the elastic so it stays in place, and then I'm going to go and turn each of the straps up and top stitch along the top edge of the tunnel there. So you'll stitch right there. Before you stitch these down, compare the two together and just make sure that they're both the same length. In case if one's a little bit longer, you might have to, or shorter, you might have to go back and readjust. But these are fine. The back dress piece is now done, and I'm going to take the front dress piece and lay it so the right side is up. And I have the center front notch cut here, and then the two strap starting notches, and then the 3 notches for the dart. And I'm going to take the bias tape pieces, and I have, this is the center front bias tape, and the center front is on this side. So I'm going to have it be like this, so the wrong side is facing up. And then the front side bias tape has the side seam over here. So I'm going to take this and put that there, and that goes there. And I'm going to attach these all together. So I'm going to sew a 1/2 inch there, and then a 1/2 inch there, and a 1/2 inch over here. Now I'm going to trim off this seam allowance so there's about 1/4 inch left, and then press the seam open so it's flat. Now I'm going to take the strap pieces, and with the side that has the raw edge on it, I'm going to pin it up here next to the notch, and it's on the side of the notch that's closer to the side seam. And if you have a side of the strap that you like better, have that one be face down. So, because it's going to flip up like this. So the notch is there, and then the strap is right next to it. And then I'm going to put this side to the left of that notch. Now I'm going to put this facing or bias tape over the strap, and I'm going to pin it all along there and then stitch a 1/2 inch away from the edge. And when I get to the straps, I'm going to back stitch over them a couple of times so they don't rip out. Now press and trim off the seam allowance so there's about 1/8 inch left. Also going to trim off these two tiny little points here so that it's even with the seam allowance. And now I'm going to turn this over and fold the bias tape over and then press. Now fold under the seam allowance so the raw edge of this is touching the stitch line there on the inside, and then fold it and pin, and do that all the way around. Now press and then stitch all along the edge there. Now press. We're going to do the darts now. So I'm going to take my pattern piece and take a pin and poke a hole through the point on the dart, and then line up the pattern with the dart there and mark the point, and then with a ruler or any straight edge connect the dot to each notch. Now I'm going to fold this like that. So this line is at the top there, and then I'm going to pin it. And if you've never sewn a dart before, you're going to start here and sew and go off of the fabric. So just pretend that there's still fabric there. Don't backstitch or anything. And then you're going to leave a few inches of thread. You're going to snip and then tie a couple of knots to hold the dart in place. And also backstitch it here in the beginning at the side seam, but not down here. Now press the dart down and repeat the same thing on the other side. I did the other dart, and now I'm going to do the side seams. So I'm going to put the back of the dress so the wrong sides are touching, and then going to pin the side seams together and sew a 1/4 inch all the way down. Now trim off the seam allowance so there's about 1/8 of an inch left. And press the side seam down and then stitch a 1/4 of an inch all the way down. Now press the side seam and repeat the same thing for the other side. I just finished the other side seam. Now I'm going to attach the bra adjuster and going to make sure that the strap isn't twisted. And it's going to go in through the top of the adjuster and then through the bottom, and then it's going to go through the ring and then come back up and then flip this to the other side and have this go in through the top and the bottom on the back side of this tie. It's helpful if you if you look at it an adjuster at home. If you have something in your closet, that can be helpful. Okay, so that went through there, and now this part is going to be sewn to the strap right there. I just did the other adjuster, and now the dress is done.